creates business opportunities for its members and their diverse communities. The organization has great relationships with corporations and government entities. So at any time you need help with any business-related issues, ADA's got you, especially if you're in Los Angeles. ACE Next Gen is the premier organization for millennial Asian American entrepreneurs. And we're a really, really fun group of people. So if you're looking for others who are like-minded, want to build community, and have great ideas to share, and a supportive network, then ACE Next Gen is also for you. So before we get started tonight, I have some sponsors that I want to thank, as well as some VIPs I want to acknowledge. So let's get started with that. Our title sponsor, big thank you to our title sponsor, T-Mobile, as well as our corporate sponsors, AEG, CIT, US Bank, and the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Our community sponsors, KCAL Insurance Agency, STEM Center USA, Health Aid, Dr. Kumo, Blake Rome, ID Logic, Evolution Design Lab, Collectin, and Cybertegic. And also thank you to our marketing partners, ACE Next Gen, Accel, Apex, and Asian Hustle Network. And now, I'd like to recognize some VIPs. We have one of our big supporters from the Small Business Administration, Ben Raju, who give everyone hello. So as you all know, the SBA is part of the government, so if you have government questions, SBA loaning questions, Ben's your guy. And then our board of directors here. We have Queen Away of Coffee Free, Ben Pasquale of Tom Yu Wong and Lee LLP. Queen and Ben are our two co-chairs for this year. We have Linda Nguyen from Culture Series, Teresa Wright from Little Saigon TV Network. We have Miss Elizabeth Yang of the Law and Mediation Offices of Elizabeth Yang, Nadia Lee of Collectin, Jason Kim of Blake Rome. Are we pointing at any additional? We have Melissa Jawaharlal of STEM Center USA, as well as both of our former co-chairs, Chewy J and Jay Chong. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Melissa Jawaharlal of STEM Center USA, who is going to be our fabulous host and MC today.
Thank you so much, Angie. As Angie mentioned, my name is Melissa Jawaharlal, and I will be moderating this evening. I am delighted and honored to be here, and thrilled and very excited to share the stage with a selection of really wonderful entrepreneurs. I'd like to dive right in and welcome our panelists to the stage. So when I call your name, please join me. We have Brian Lee of Open Market, Jennifer Chung of Embody, John Zhang of Drunk Fruit, and Stephanie Lin of Nestle. There are mics behind you, so as you have a seat, just watch out for those. All right, so just to kind of set the stage for today, I have a selection of questions that I will be fielding to our panelists. There will be a section for Q&A from the audience, so if they share something that's really intriguing to you, please jot that question down because there will be an opportunity for you to ask your question at the end of today. In your program books, there is a little bit more information about each of your panelists, so please feel free to open that up, and that way it just gives you a little bit more of an insight into who they are. But to kick us off, I would love for you each to share your name, your company, and a little bit about what you do. We'll start with Stephanie, and we'll work our way down.
So, hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Lin. I am the co-founder and the creative director of Keston. We are a modern women's wear brand, and I personally design clothing and accessories for the modern woman. So we currently have a flagship location down at the Irvine Spectrum. Mine is right next to Nordstrom. Come say hi to me, new clothes, if you want to get new clothes for someone. We've also been featured in New York magazine's The Cut, Pop Sugar, the Oprah magazine. We also have had national coverage with NBC and ABC, kind of featuring our business and how we're addressing changes and how women are dressing today. All right, so
Hey guys, I'm John Zhang. I'm one of the co-founders of Drunk Fruit, and we are an Asian hard seltzer. I started it during the pandemic about 2 years ago with 3 of my college friends from Chicago. And within a short period of time, the 4 of us who had no previous experience in CBG, we've managed to get Drunk Fruit into over 4 states: LA, Vegas, Nevada, DC, Virginia, and into over 400 locations in major chains like Venmo, Total Wine, 99 Ranch, Whole Foods, and Safeway. And thank you for inviting me here. This has been an amazing experience for me.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Chung. I'm the founder and CEO of Body. We make skincare delicious. So we launched with the world's first retinol gummy, also during the pandemic, and now we're in urban outfitters and anthropology, and hopefully more retailers to come. But our whole philosophy with skincare is like, how do we, really truly get beauty from within? I think with women, we have such an extensive skincare routine, but a lot of times we forget that the vitamins and nutrients that we intake also play a huge role in your skincare. And so our mission is to make skincare delicious and effective.
Hi everybody, honored to be here. My name is Brian Lee. Me and my wife, opened up Open Market about a year ago in Koreatown. We're a locally focused, community-driven bodega sandwich shop. I'm just excited to be here.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so just to share a little bit more, I do have some questions for all of you. Feel free to answer whichever ones you want. Don't feel like you have to answer every single one, but of course chime in where you would like. To get started, I know that our audience comes from all sorts of backgrounds. We have entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, specialists in their field, those new to it. We have some college students here. Let's start with the beginning of your entrepreneurial journeys. I know all of you have really interesting stories going from industry to entrepreneurship. What was that like? What drove you? What advice might you share to an aspiring entrepreneur? John, can we start with you for this one?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So I think I would say I'm a new entrepreneur. Like before this business, I would not consider myself. I wouldn't even imagine calling myself that, because I worked in Hollywood and it was a cool job, but I was at a big company and I had blinders on. I can only see my next promotion, and that was my future. Was just getting that promotion. And then ever having started this business, I encourage everyone in the audience to kind of follow that. I've been able to just meet so many new people and understand how it work better, right? For example, before I was a real old fart about Instagram. I was like, oh, Instagram is just used for vanity, and but it's not. There's so many vibrant, interesting, partnerships happening there. So that's just like a one little, example of how being an entrepreneur. I think you start doing it. You start doing it, and then it's kind of like fake it until you make it. And I'm here, so maybe I made it, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Yeah.
I think you've done really well, to be clear. Stephanie, you had an interesting transition. I know you work with your brother in your business. How did that come about?
Yeah, so my background has always been in fashion. It's what I've always wanted to do. And people don't really think about this as fashion, but it's actually quite traditional in the sense that I went to Parsons School of Design in New York, then I went to Central St. Martin's in London. From there, I started working for other brands. So I designed with Diane von Furstenberg, as Armani. I used to live in Germany designing for Esprit, and I was like pretty happy, right? People don't think about it. It's a corporate job. You have benefits. Like, why do I have to be upset about it? But I was fortunate because I'm really close to my older brother. He's actually here. I just have to point him out. His style is shaving his suit, courtesy of his stylist, me. But we've always been close, and Kevin at that time was getting his master's degree through MIT. He was studying abroad in Spain. I was living in Germany, and we decided to take a sibling vacation together. And apparently, like every typical younger sister, I was very annoying, and I was complaining a lot about my corporate job. I think that's something that I feel like a lot of women here can relate to, is how we dress has changed, and it needs to be addressed, no pun intended. So Kevin finally sat me down at the end of the trip, and he said, either stop complaining and take your paycheck, or do something about your passions. And I realized that I couldn't keep complaining about my life, and I was responsible for my happiness and for my kind of, drive. And that's why I also encourage a lot of you, like, you have the power to be responsible for making your dreams come true.
Awesome. Thank you. That's amazing. I think that, I know in my small business, working to build an awesome team is a challenge and something we work hard on every day. That's a challenge especially during the pandemic. Do any of you have kind of like a secret sauce to identifying, inviting, and retaining talent to your team?
I'll jump in here. Right now, we started as a small team, just about 4 founders, and we're starting to get to that point where we do need to start hiring, we're growing, and we've found a lot of difficulty retaining and also just vetting people. I think one of the biggest things that we realized was just get people feet on the ground and working with you, and I think you can tell more about a person's character and their cultural fit based on the actual hand-to-hand experience with somebody. I think I went to business school with Angela, and we know there's a lot of people that are great at interviewing, but actually to be able to walk the walk, I think, is an important thing. And so for us, a big thing that we do is, we'll meet the person, but just make sure that they get into the store and they, can actually start working with us. Because I think the cultural fit's a bigger thing than skills or specific knowledge.
Jennifer, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so being the oldest of 4, I think I learned very quickly that every person, what motivates them, what their fears are, how they define success is very different. And so now, now that I'm my own boss, whenever I hire someone, I make them take personality tests. I'm not talking about just your astrology, which is can also be important, right? But I make them take 2 tests in particular. The first is a DISC test, and the second is an Enneagram test. And after this, I'd love to share more with anyone who's interested. But basically, the Enneagram, for example, would define, or through the personality test, you can see what is a motivator for them, how they handle their failures, for example. And with those results, I'm really able to gauge, okay, how do I communicate with this person? Because it's not necessarily if there's a right or wrong answer, but on my team, I want to make sure that they can fit. There's that piece of puzzle that will fit into this masterpiece that I'm trying to create. So personality tests are very important to me. And then beyond that, I make sure that once I get the results in, that I'm able to have a one-on-one with them and go over the results, and also be vulnerable and share what my results are, so that they can better understand how to communicate with me. And this is, I have found so valuable when I'm creating goals within my business.
Jennifer, I was reading an article about how your company hit, I think, 6 figures in 6 months in the middle of the pandemic with a new business. I'm sure building your team was a big part of that. Are there any things that you did during that time that you'll carry with you post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think it was really good timing. One, we had a product that no one's ever heard about, and then 2, people are at home, they have money to spend. Women are shopping for skincare for the first time, or not the first time, but at that period, people really cared about what their skincare was, because they weren't able to put on, let's say, color cosmetics. And then beyond that, we really worked hard on what the branding was, how we wanted people to feel when they purchased our products. And I think what was key to the success was being able to have these influencers that would post for us. That has done more success for us than, let's say, paid ads, because your influencers, their audience, truly trust them and look towards them for advice when it comes, especially for beauty. So we're very lucky that we had built those relationships with influencers that we still have till today, so that they can share our products.
Thank you. John, I think this one's for you. So as an entrepreneur, in my seat, I know that I'm constantly learning on the go. I wear a ton of different hats. How do you, I guess as you build your business and you work on your business, how do you learn what you don't know and kind of address that and grow from there?
Yeah, literally when we were starting the business, that was the phrase that we used. It's we don't know what we don't know. And it was kind of a horrifying thing, because you could not know, for example, you could not know that you had to put your nutrition facts a certain way and then face a lawsuit, right? And there's no guides that kind of really tell you about that. Honestly, it differs by industry, but I would say just general principles, research, measure twice, cut once kind of thing, and surround yourself with good people, try to really be thorough in your process. But at the end of the day, you can't stress too much about what we don't know, because there's an infinite amount of things that I don't know, but just you have to try your best.
As entrepreneurs, you are creating that whole book. You're figuring out what you know, what you don't know. You're creating the metrics for your company. How do you define success within your company? Are there driving metrics that you use, certain value propositions, product development, timeline? Any tips in that area?
I think for us, it's like I come from a corporate background. I had other small businesses, MBA background. We always have those metrics, monthly reviews, numbers, but I think ultimately where I get the most feedback is from actually just seeing customer reaction and understanding and talking to people. You know, I would say maybe about 2-3 days of the week I'm actually working the front cash register and making drinks. And it's fun because you get to really feel the experience of not only what does it take to run the business, but also what is the value you give to people by doing what you're doing. We can have a lot of high aspirations about what we want businesses to do, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to that touch point of what you're actually giving somebody and how they value that. And that was something, a lot of my corporate background, you know, you're sitting in an office miles away from any customer interaction, that really kind of killed my spirit a lot. And that's kind of why I ran towards something a lot more hands-on and a lot more visceral. And I think that physical interaction is one of the most valuable things that I take.
Yeah, I think for myself, like I'm still learning how to set goals within my business because it's always evolving, just like my brand is evolving. But to touch on your point, like I think the final customer reaction, like how that customer feels, how they respond to your brand, is what defines the success of your company, right? Like from the top, I can set all of these like KPIs and all of these like goals, but at the end of the day, like does that like finally show in the end product of my customer using it and loving it as much as I do?
And I think kind of jumping off of that, like a lot of times in business, we set a lot of external goals, right? Things like how much revenue we're making, how many locations you're opening, how many products you're putting out. But I think also success, I think for entrepreneurs, it's important to set personal goals as well to make sure that you're feeling fulfilled in your job. Are you innovating? Because oftentimes you can be hitting numbers, but if you're not innovating in your business, you're not feeling inspired, that can really quickly cause a decline in your product and the customer interaction. And that is something that I think is so important for us to be mindful of as we continue to grow in terms of the business. I think internally you have to grow as well as a person and as a business owner.
I love that. Thank you so much. As in general, there's always a lot happening in life, and as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of different things happening as well. Whether you're on the front lines, or you're thinking about things on the back, figuring out where stuff is going, updating your timelines. How do you keep a healthy perspective of life outside of your business? Are there tricks to make sure you stay in the best shape to keep your company moving forward as well, just all around?
So I have this rule that Sundays, like I have to have nothing on schedule. Like if I don't set that day out to do absolutely nothing, I am going to work. And I found that has done so much for my health. And yeah, sure, there are some weeks where like there's an event on Sunday and you have to go, but I think just scheduling that one day off so that you can reflect and reset and truly rest so that you can be fully charged for that Monday to come. Like your staff is going to see that too, and it just makes me feel so more confident walking into the week. And I found that confidence will reflect in my business.
Have you always taken Sundays off, or did that come a little bit later? When did you realize you needed to do that?
So I'm sure a lot of you can relate, but growing up with like Asian parents, especially mine who were entrepreneurial, like anytime I was resting, they're like, no, you need to keep hustling, you need to keep working. And so finally now, like 28, I sometimes still feel that guilt, but you know, it's gotten a lot better. It took a little bit of therapy, but you know, we're good now.
And I also think it's so important to be mindful about what you're doing. So these days, whether it's with personal obligations or with like business partnerships, you know, decisions I'm making for the business, like I genuinely sit down and ask myself, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because it's going to serve me, it's going to serve my business, or am I doing this on the off chance I might offend someone I knew from high school and they're going to like be upset that I get coffee with them, right? So I think as business owners, part of time management is being okay to say no to things and just being able to put that aside and do other things with your time.
I think for me, during the pandemic, you know, I got really philosophical and I tried to figure out like how to be happy, like what's the best path to being happy. And maybe some of you guys did too. But I think my conclusion, part of it is to not let my happiness be tied to the ups and downs of the business or any of the things I'm working on. You know, it's to really kind of celebrate the small victories and be like, hey, 6 months ago, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't have this network, and now I do. And now I believe I can do anything else, even though today might be a bad day, this week might be a bad week. Just having that, positive level.
I think just final note there, I completely agree with what everyone said, because it's very easy as an entrepreneur to become a slave to your business. You start a machine and it keeps on going, and you feel like you need to be the one to make all the decisions. I think one of the healthiest things that I've finally came around, like everyone else here, is to be able to say, things will happen when you're not looking, and it's fine. I think we're all humans. We need to value ourselves first before we start to put more weight into our companies and what we're doing with our time.
Staying grounded and staying balanced, I think, is so important in giving the best to yourself, your loved ones, and your business. A big part of my life is family, and my business partner is my sister. I know that, just show of hands for the audience, who currently is working in a family business or has at some point stage here and then becoming a business. Okay. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit. In general, what is that experience like? Would you recommend that for others? Or what warnings might you share? Any thoughts in that area?
So my business partner is my wife. We actually got married a week after we opened our business. And it wasn't easy. It's a lot of challenges. But we were together for a while before we opened the business. We did many things together entrepreneurially before this business. I think the thing that is allowing us to not argue as much is probably being more mindful, trying to develop ways to communicate. Before any of this life that I'm living right now, I was working in my family's business, which is in real estate, and that was awful. It was just terrible. But I think it's because you're walking into something that wasn't created by you, that you have no say in, and I think I was probably too young, a little bit too bullheaded, trying to push my way into there. But now I think we have an ability to acknowledge sensitivity points, to acknowledge when we need to sit down and say this is a business conversation, or this is me talking to you as your spouse. I think creating a good language for communication, I think, has been the biggest thing for us.
Yeah, I've been in my family's business for 15 years now. So since I was a teenager, my mom had started her skincare company, and for the longest time, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with the family business because it was something that was, pushed upon you. And it wasn't until I was, I think, 19. Unfortunately, some employees had screwed her over, and we had to go through a lawsuit. And that's when I realized, wow, my mom's building me this legacy, and it's cosmetics, it's skincare, it's something that I love. I am so grateful for it. And that's when things turned around, and I started to take, university more seriously. And saw a path for myself where I wanted to take my mom's legacy and turn it into something of my own and share it with the world, and maybe one day look at Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom and see our brand there, and maybe make another kid who was in my shoes proud. But with where we are today with my mom, I think our relationship was built on 3 things. The first was trust. And I think a lot of family businesses lack that, especially when it's parents passing on to their kids. Maybe the parents are possessive of their business, or the kid hasn't proven themselves. Whatever it is, trust is so important, because then you can have these open conversations and trust that the next generation will lead the business on. And then the next thing is respect, and it's common in every business, right? You have to respect your staff, whether or not they're strangers. But with family, there's such a thin boundary that is constantly crossed. And for me and my mom, we're still navigating, and now my sister's involved too. And so, sometimes I'm brushing my teeth, when I used to live at home, brushing my teeth, my mom pops her head in, she's like, hey, I have this idea, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Mom, I'm trying to relax here. But through all of that, we really learned how to respect one another. And also I've seen in other instances where my friends, their parents, because they're older, especially with Asian hierarchies, they don't respect the decisions that their kids have to make. And then lastly, with communication. Communication is so important. I feel like it's the most important things. Our parents weren't always taught how to communicate their feelings with us, and that can be very frustrating. And so now, my mom and I, just like with you and your wife, we have to figure out, okay, am I talking with to you as mother and daughter, or are we talking as partners in this business? And it's a lot of tears were shed, lots of arguments, and I can tell you I have been fired like several times throughout my 15 years of the family business. But 3 years ago when I moved down from the Bay Area, I did get her blessing to expand beyond that and create my own brand, which is embodied today. And I can't tell you like how many times I call her a day and be like, hey mom, like can you is the chicken done yet? Like I don't know if it's cooked, but also like how do you market this product? So it's a really valuable relationship that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, and I think I definitely relate to this idea of like kind of keeping personal things personal and then also business things business. And I think for myself personally, something that's really helped. It's kind of awkward because my brother's here, but
I'm listening.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this when we go home. But I think for us, it's so important to set boundaries. And I think whether you're working with family or just in your personal life or your personal workplace, it is so important to define what your boundary is and when not to cross it, right? So it's similar to like with your mom, like, maybe at mom's birthday party, let's not talk about all of our inventory that's stuck on a boat somewhere. Like, let's talk about mom, And also not making things personal because you're so close. I feel like that is such a benefit because no one will love you or know you as well as your family member, but they also know your secrets. So it is very important to make sure you don't bring your personal kind of lives into your business. And when you're at work, it's just work. And when you're at home, then you guys can be best friends and talk to each other like friends.
Yeah, it's bittersweet because you get to work with the people you love, but also like they're the people you love. So it's a delicate balance.
Can't be like, in high school, I remember when it's like, you can't bring that kind of stuff up.
Another big part of identity, I think, is age. And as our young entrepreneurs panel, you've had all sorts of amazing, incredible experiences at relatively young ages. Have you had experiences or had to work, do anything particular to make your investors, customers, clients take you seriously?
Yeah, I'd love to answer this question. So for me, I've never worked anywhere else in my life, right? I've always worked for my family's business, and I've gained a lot of experience in it, something that maybe someone else wouldn't have been able to learn naturally. But I didn't come from big name corporations, and when I started Embody, I knew that I wanted to take outside investment. And so when I first started talking to investors, I remember coming and I was so nervous because I wasn't confident in myself. I thought like, oh man, I didn't come from like this university, or I didn't do, work all these internships or these corporate beauty brands. And for the first couple of interviews, I remember I totally bombed it because I was so nervous. And then a couple of months in, once we started to get traction, I had a different perspective on it. I was like, you know what? No one else can say that they've worked in a beauty business since they were a teenager like I can. And so I really took that leverage and that experience. And so now when I'm talking to whether it's retail buyers or investors, I'm able to take what used to be my insecurity and now turn it into something that is very unique to me and my brand.
John, I'd love to start with you for this next one. So for the last 2 years, our world has changed dynamically and in a way that we never would have imagined with the pandemic. All of our businesses have changed. Some of your businesses have started during this time. What are some things that you'll take into your business moving forward from the pandemic?
Yeah, I think, we all had to kind of work under the same conditions, and really learn quickly. I would say, even if, fingers crossed, after the pandemic, we'll still kind of approach it that way, which is try to be lean, try to be smart, try to be efficient, and then try to think outside the box. For example, when we first started making our seltzer, it was at a traditional brewery, and then for 2 months, they had to shift to making hand sanitizer because, the world needed hand sanitizer more than they needed another new hard seltzer, and we just understood that, So I think, I think it's taught us to be really resilient, and hopefully, as things get better, then that resilience only improves, what we do.
I know a lot of people who would need that seltzer more than my hand sanitizer though.
I think there's something with a new hard seltzer coming out. Is that right?
That's right. So for us, we started off with seltzer because it's accepted. You know, it's a category that everyone here, Americans, white Americans, Hispanics, they already know. But our vision for our company, it's called Drunk Fruit, but our parent company is called Hyphen Brands. It's called Hyphen Brands because we are Asian American, you know, and it doesn't stop at just seltzer. Right now it's seltzer with Asian flavors, but our next drink is going to be a ready-to-drink cocktail. It's called Yochu. It's a combination of yogurt and soju. So I think most people here have had that, but just like lychee, you know, a lot of the percentage of the U.S. has never heard of it or tried it, but they do, they love it, and we think, you know, yogurt soju is going to be something similar, and it comes with all, you know, the trying to educate people and the market and have to learn to do all that, but yeah, we're very excited.
I feel like we just heard something special because I don't think I saw that online.
Sign me up.
I want to talk to you about things in your market.
Let's do it.
I'd love to talk about names for both. We have Open Market, we have Heston, Drunk Fruit. I know you just talked a little bit about that. And Embody, how did you come to your company names? Are there stories between them? Yeah, so many expressions right now.
I'll just go quickly. My background is in marketing, and I think I've been in those rooms where you're deliberating with like creative agencies, ad agencies, everybody saying what's the perfect spin. And when it came to Open Market, my wife and I were just sitting at the table, we're just eating, drinking a wine or something. And we're like, what do we call this thing? And she was like, let's just call it Open Market. I was like, that's perfect, just leave it at that. Let's not deliberate this anymore. And we just stuck with it. And I think it went well. I'm happy with it.
For us, like I put so much thought into it because I was like, oh, this needs to be a really cool name. And we went through so many different types of names before I pretty much gave up. This was like a couple months before we were gonna like go into branding. And then one day, I'm like listening to my podcast and I'm curling my hair, and I remember exactly. It was a daily episode, and they were talking about Trump on the daily episode of the podcast. And someone had used the word embody, but they used it in a totally different context. It was like some political context. And I was like, embody? Damn, that sounds really good. So I Googled it, and embody means to, you know, you are becoming a part of, or you are, you know, going on this journey to become something better. And I was like, we're vitamins, gummies, it's perfect because we want to become a part of it. We want to be a part of your skincare journey. And for you to embody, you know, everything that we say about our brand. And so it just made sense, and it stuck ever since. And I remember it was very challenging because now all the Instagram handles are taken, so you can't get embody anymore. So then we had to be creative. So anyways, that was a whole different thing.
Yeah, for us, so if you Google us and like just, you know, read the article, the official thing is my co-founder Ken, who's half Japanese. He went on his honeymoon in Tokyo and he saw these drinks that inspired him, and that's partially true. But the actual name and concept, I actually was in my room. It was the beginning of the pandemic, and everyone was scared shitless. We don't know what was going on, and it literally, I swear, it just came to me. Within I think 2 hours, I was drafting up the first mascot in Photoshop, and you know, when you start a business, you have to Google the name to see if anything else is similar. And when I Googled Drunk Fruit, there was just videos of elephants getting drunk off fruit. So then I knew I was good, and then the rest is history.
For us, we came up with Heston. So it was actually my brother and I, and it was on that sibling vacation that I was telling you guys about. So we were actually sitting in a bar in Vienna, and he was kind of talking me through starting this business. And by talking to him, he was like really trying to convince me. So I said, all right, so like let's start this business and let's maybe think of some names. So it sounds like it was like from a movie, but we had a bar napkin. We were writing down different names, and family is so important to us. One of the reasons why we started the business is because we wanted to start a family legacy for ourselves. So the name actually comes from the first 2 letters of everyone's name in our family. So Kevin's the K-E, I'm Stephanie, the S-T, our father is Steven, also S-T, and our mother is Annie for the A-N. And our logo is actually our last name, Lynn, 4 times for each of our members.
I love all of those stories. Thank you. I just have a few more before we open it up to audience Q&A, so have those ready. One thing a lot of folks hear, especially when they're thinking about going to the next step or starting a business or just being in college, is finding mentors. And sometimes it's easier said than done. Do you, Brian, I'll start with you for this one. Do you have a mentor? If so, how did you start that relationship? And what do you get out of it?
I think in the traditional sense, I don't necessarily have a mentor, somebody older, somebody that's done what we've done in that sense. But starting Open Market and most of my other businesses, I think the biggest value I've gotten was just through a network of friends who have tangential experiences. For instance, our buddy who does Cafe Dulce, I've known him since he started it in Little Tokyo because I was starting an art gallery at that time. And I knew I wanted a coffee shop as a part of Open Market, so I just went to him and said, what do I need to do to get there? And just take me under your wing, I'll be a sponge, I'll learn everything that you want to tell me. And then from him, there's just so many other people in your worlds that know more than you do, and I think it takes a wise mind to be able to say, I don't know anything, let me just help me. And so it's a lot of my friends, people that have other experiences, and we constantly text with each other about, oh, we're dealing with this problem, how have you guys done it? We're going through this health permitting issue, what have you guys done? And I think that network of community, people of the same age that all have those shared experiences, but everybody knowing that we're kind of all in the same boat together. I think that's been a huge thing.
Yeah, I think when reaching out to mentors, it can be really intimidating. I know it was for me because you already don't have enough time on your schedule, let alone ask someone who's probably even busier than you to make time for you. But I think more people are willing to help than we realize. So for me, I've taken advantage of like the small business administration programs. They have great programs that not more people know of. Through the pandemic, as they were pushing it out more to small businesses, I was able to participate in the Goldman Sachs program. And that was really helpful for me. Someone, again, coming from a family business, I didn't know all like the structures that a normal person would go through business school. So that was a great resource. Another great resource, I'm sure you guys already know, is LinkedIn. I think for maybe females, it's a little bit easier to like reach out and be like, hey girl, like I love what you're doing. Do you have time for some coffee? But that for me has been a really fun way to get to know people and connect with people who I admire. And even if it's just like for a 15-20 minute call, like I try to come prepared. I have all my questions. I out of respect for them, I also make sure that I really research who that person is, what skills they bring to the table, to show that I'm not there to like waste their time. And then another thing I have learned being an entrepreneur is like maintaining that relationship. So I don't always upkeep it, but I do have a spreadsheet where I put all the names on there, and I try to set reminders like just check in. That way when I do need a favor, it's not like out of nowhere. I'm like popping my head, hey, by the way. So that's some tips that were given to me that I found was really helpful.
That's such a great tip.
I'm learning so much from this panel too.
All right, I have one more question. This one's for each of you before we open up to audience Q&A. What do you love most about your job and why? We'll start with Stephanie and then we'll work our way down this way.
Yeah, so I work in fashion, and I think a lot of times people think that fashion is just fun, it's frivolous, and it definitely can be fun, but I don't think that people understand how important the way you self-present is, especially for women. The way that you carry yourself, the way that you dress is very important, and for me to be able to lend my voice as a designer into that story of your life is a huge privilege of mine. I've had customers, I told the story to, they come in before as college students, they're getting an outfit for like their first interview. I'll get another girl coming in, same girl is now for her first promotion. I've had women come in and they have bought my dresses to get married in. I've had people buy my clothing to celebrate happy times, sad times, and to know that they have chosen me, that my clothes give them that confidence, that joy. It's such a privilege, and I absolutely love that. I love stalking their Instagrams, screenshotting, seeing where they are. So that always makes me really happy.
For me, I think the best thing, both with hard seltzer and with films or whatever else, I realize at least that it's mostly about people and connections and relationships, and having this business just allowed me to really broaden my circle. And what I love is, you go into any event and every single person is very interesting. Every single person is like an expert in something. You just kind of have to tease it out of them and learn from them, you know? So I've gotten to do that so many times, and afterwards, please find me if you're interested in seltzer or movies, and you know, yeah, I'll love to talk more.
For me, growing up, I had really, really bad acne and I had scarring on my face, and I feel like this is the most confident I've ever been in my skin, and it was through all of these things that I've learned, trial and error with my skincare. And so for me, being able to create products that are innovative, that work for people who have been in the same shoes I have and also are unhappy with their skin, because everyone deserves to feel beautiful, deserves to feel confident and have healthy skin. And so for me, it's so rewarding when, you know, we create gummies and we hear people like leave reviews like, oh my god, like this has helped me so much, I haven't had another product that worked this well. Like that is very rewarding for my team and I.
I think just to kind of echo what everyone just said, the business that we do and what everybody's involved in is a people business. And whether or not it's the vendors or your customers or your team, there's so many amazing moments running a business. I think a lot, for me, you end up seeing like the same person come in at 3 o'clock every day for a specific drink because that's exactly what they needed at that moment. And then you start to get to know them. Or there's a young brand that had never sold in the market before, and then you work with them on their pricing, and then you start to see them grow and get bought by other stores, and there's a fulfillment there. And also just a long service, you and the team are just tired and exhausted, but you get to, you know, open a bottle of wine and hang out and don't worry about business for a moment. I think those are probably my favorite moments of running business.
I could keep going, but I'd love to give you all the opportunity to share a few questions. So we have a mic stand up here in the front. Feel free to come on up a few at a time. Don't all rush at once. We ask that you just stay distant, and then we'll go from there. In the meantime, I'll keep going. Okay. Do you have an exit strategy in your businesses? And if so, is it the same thing that you started with?
No.
Okay.
I've been in a lot of businesses with that in mind, and I realized it becomes very short-sighted to a degree at some point. My goal and my strategy is to just build a business that serves what I need in my life, that has a strong impact in the community that I'm serving, and it's something that I think can be sustainable. I think more and more sustainability is something that we're starting to see the flip side of the for-profit versus non-profit model, and we're needing to find a balance in the middle. And I'm okay making enough money for my team to get paid, for us to have a strong impact, but just to keep on doing what we're doing. And if that's my future, I'm very happy about that.
It's a great future.
I guess for me, we're all Asian here, so I won't like beat around the bush. It's money, right? Like I want to be obviously wealthy, and to start the company, we're East Chicago, so we're huge nerds, econ majors, and because all these major multi-billion-dollar American beer companies are starting their own seltzers, we outsell Michelob Ultra Seltzer, you know, at most of our stores, just because they can't beat, you know, White Claw, Trulies, but we are different. So to answer that question, not to jinx it, but it's hopefully to sell to one of these big companies and become fabulously wealthy. If my parents proud.
All right, you have a line, so I'm really excited about these. Please.
My name is Bonnie. I want to thank Angie. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I feel like I've been really quarantined really hard. This is my first time going to a professional event in a while, and I really want to thank all of you for the bravery that you did, not only starting your business, but sharing with us all your secrets, because we're totally going to take them. And that's actually what I want to ask you about, bravery. I have a family business. I'm branching off, but I'm so scared every day. I'm so scared of failing. I'm so scared of, like, you know, making a fool of myself, messing up, doing all those things. And I want words of encouragement from your success to help me be less of a pussy.
I really appreciate your honesty, Bonnie. I think that's amazing. I think for me, I've made a lot of, I've been in a lot of ventures in my life, business ventures. More of them were failures from a traditional standpoint. And I think the thing that has always been a way that I could look back on all those and not feel ashamed or not feel like it was a bad decision was the knowledge that I really loved what I was doing, that I thought that there was a purpose there. I think a lot of people that I've seen get into businesses for false motives or for bad reasons. That's when you start to feel ashamed. That's when you start to feel regret. But if your heart's in it for the right place, you're not going to feel that afterwards, even if you do fail. And if you do fail, welcome to the club. It's fine. Life goes on. You'll be okay. And yeah, I think just you gotta believe in it, and I'm sure you do. So.
I think failure is inevitable. Everyone here can probably relate. We've failed so many more times than we've succeeded. And I think what makes entrepreneurship so fun is when we do fall, it's how we pick ourselves up and what we learn from it is going to be so valuable. And I think for you to be choosing that you want to do entrepreneurship is so huge already, and not everyone can say that, right? So I'm like so excited for you. Just expect failure, but you know what? At the end of like every brainstorm, there's going to be sunshine, and you have all of us here to support you.
And I think for myself personally, I find that like I do my best work. This sounds so like hippy-dippy, guys, but you can't focus on that because I tend to realize that what I'm looking at as a person is what I'm walking towards, right? So because no matter what, life is going to happen. Like, isn't that what we all learned during COVID? Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So you might as well just focus on what you can control, on what's in your power. And no matter how insurmountable, all it takes is one step. I do one thing today, I do the next thing tomorrow. And if you're looking in the right direction, then you should have faith that your feet are going to take you to success.
I guess to add to that, so for me, I think maybe this will help you. What I try to do is, you used to remind me of it, I try to imagine the best version of myself, the version of myself partying with Blackpink, in a mansion somewhere. And then I think, to get there, is this little thing, like, is this thing that I'm working on tomorrow? Like, I was coming here, like, public speaking is difficult, but I'm gonna party with Blackpink, so I gotta be the person that Blackpink wants to party with, right? So maybe BTS for you, I don't know, you can insert something else in there.
I love that. Thank you. Jen?
Hello, my name is Jennifer. President also. And I'm still in corporate, so my question is, were there any big learnings, kind of similar to the previous question, sorry, but were there any big learnings or surprises that you wish you knew from the beginning? Like anything financially related, legally related, or any advice that you would have for someone starting out and sort of really dig deep to share?
I think something that I've learned a lot of was entrepreneurship for me, and just running I think there's a difference between entrepreneurship and running a business. I think running a business there's a lot of overlap. Entrepreneurship, in my mind, is the ability to take value on many different levels and turn it into something else. And most of our value here in America is money, and we go to business school for that, or there is a business school for that, right? There's different ways, financially, operationally, marketing, to manage money in beneficial ways for your business. And I think just thinking about a good idea alone, a lot of times isn't enough to build a foundation. And I think doing more research and understanding and looking at your industries in different levels, from a consumer level, from a business level, from a shareholder level, understanding the ins and outs that way really brings a lot to light, because I think we all come from very specified backgrounds, and it's easy to be very myopic about your approach to a business. And I think take a step backwards and try to understand the holistic view. That really helped me, and helped me because I learned from not doing that. And I think that is something that the more I grow, the more I'm trying to adopt that 360 perspective on business.
I just wanted to touch on that quickly, like purpose over profit now more than ever is so important. For me, like when we were in the beginning, when we were purpose driven, we had the best success, right? And then once we got our first injection of VC money, I remember I was overwhelming myself with like, okay, like I have to meet all of these, and like how do I make more money? And then through those 6 to 8 months, I remember that was like the worst we ever did. And so now I've had to take a couple of months back to reflect on it and kind of determine like what the heck happened there. And it was because I forgot what my mission was, and I was so worried about pressing these VCs with all these like pitch decks and whatnot. So that would be one advice I'm taking for myself, and I hope you would too.
I think that's super well said. Because for me, I think it's the same thing. You need to have almost extreme delusional confidence in yourself, because even people that are close to you, that know you, that love you, they'll try to talk you out of your vision, right? Because they don't understand it. Only you have it in your head. So your parents, your co-founders, it's this real. You need to really be again delusionally confident in your thing, and just to go for it.
And I think for me, it's really important to have contingency plans, but not necessarily in not doing your business, but in how to make your business survive. Because for us, we have a retail location at one of the biggest malls in America, but during COVID, we had to shut down for 4 months, 0 revenue. And it was really scary. But for us, we had an online store and we're able to quickly pivot, change kind of our direction, how we met our customers. So for us, it's always being ready to do whatever you can to make your business survive. So think about all the different ways that you can run your business, how your business can exist, and try to make that happen. Dale?
Hello. So as an older entrepreneur, I don't know what Black Tape was.
Yeah. Oh, no way. No way. You're about to be for a treat. You're in for a treat, okay? Go home and like 2 hours and just watch all the videos.
My question is, as a young entrepreneur, what are older entrepreneurs doing wrong, and what advice do you have?
Well, I think we learned a lot from you guys still. What to do, what not to do. So give yourself a little bit more credit.
Yeah, I can't talk to that because I was talking to someone and they're like, oh, I'm old, I'm 22. And I just said, cool in my mind. No, so I mean, I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's a mentality thing.
You guys aren't answering the question.
Okay, how about this? We're trying to respect our elders.
But if I had to try to answer your question, I honestly really recommend kind of thinking about where the future of business is going. I know that for a lot of industries, being online and having a social media presence is like super, super important. Like I mentioned before, during that time when we closed down and we weren't making money through the store, I had to pivot online. So I kind of changed how I approach my customers, finding new ways to talk to them, finding new ways to get them interested. And then we actually doubled our revenue during COVID from closing a retail store. So for me, it's kind of like figuring out like what are some other ways that I can get new customers? How can I reach out to new people? Is that through networking? Is that through new ways of marketing? Is that through new partnerships? Because during that time, we partnered with a lot of really popular influencers. So maybe I didn't have a store with foot traffic, but I had a girl with 3 million fans talking about my product. And that's a new way of kind of doing business. I wasn't used to that either because I never really was online prior to that, but gotta do it.
Now we have to create TikToks. I'm on TikTok all the time, I love it, but like tell me to create a video for the trend, like it's so difficult.
I think also maybe to answer some part of the question. I think there's a tendency to look at like the young trends like TikTok and say, how do I make that work for me? How do I be on Instagram? How do we have a viral campaign? And I think from that approach, it never works really well. Because those are literally just medias for communicating something that has to be there before that thing. You know, the strategy isn't how to use the application. The strategy is like, how is that going to help me get my message out there? And I think I get more of that from the corporate world, you know, working at Nestle or all those big companies that they say, we need a YouTube campaign. How do we get big on YouTube? I think that inherently is the fundamental issue. And the bright and shiny thing isn't necessarily going to be a fit for everyone.
Hello, I'm also old.
Not really business related, but I want to know what is your proudest moment that actually brought you to tears?
I think when I raised my first or when I got into my first VC firm, I was like, wow, this little immigrant kid who like was never taught how to raise money was able to like, you know, convince an investor that like she had something here. And that for me, like even for my mom, because she never, you know, no one had believed in her, no one had invested in her. So that was also a very proud moment for the both of us, and it kind of helped me be more confident in this journey that like one day our brand is going to be really big and people will take us really seriously. So that for me was really a proud moment.
I think for me it was, I think because we're Asian, it also does have to do with my parents. So for me, it was the first time that I saw one of my designs in print. I think for me, like working in fashion for so long, like, you know, working in fashion week, you think that's like the pinnacle of what fashion is. And for my parents, they've always, fortunately, been supportive of my endeavors, and they've always been proud of me, but I don't really think that they understood what I was doing, because it's like, oh, you make clothes. And I was like, no, it's bigger than that. And I think our first press placement that we ever got was in, I think it was the Oprah magazine, and then they did a spread, and they were wearing one of my shirts, and I brought it home, I showed it to my mom, and then she got it. I watched my mom cry, and then I cried because she cried.
That sounds like such an amazing moment. Thanks for sharing that, Steph.
I mean, so I didn't cry. Not because I'm macho or whatever. I just, it's business at the end of the day. You know. So for me though, I remember it was when our business was like, you know, a year in, and the Washington Post had discovered the writer for the Going Out Guide discovered us organically and wrote this article about us over Memorial Day weekend, and it was amazing. So if you're starting a business, I think landing a big piece like that of PR at the beginning is really useful because you get that effect, the halo effect, but then you can also show people, hey, this is us. But I remember when that came out, we were in Vegas, and our Vegas distributor had read it, and it was on a Sunday, and these old white men, like the CEO, the CFO, the distributor came out, and it was just me and my co-founder. I was wearing like a hoodie probably, you know, just sitting, you know, like all, just like, I was so confident in that room, and we closed that deal in the room, and that was like the best rush, you know, like I felt great.
Did you party after?
It was Vegas. So
maybe similarly, I don't cry. I cry watching HBO more than I cry doing business. But I think if maybe what you're asking for is when did it emotionally resound within myself of what we're doing, is probably just, I don't know, when you serve somebody over and over again and you say, how are you still coming back here? Like, you know, I've taken enough of your money, and you start to feel bad, but then they are genuinely happy about that, that's a pretty exciting feeling.
We have one last audience question.
Hi. So, one thing that I hear a lot is, you know, mentorship and people that are really big influence in our lives. So, what I want to know is, what are some things that you are doing to, you know, continue to self-develop and, you know, grow with yourself, whether it's someone that's mentoring you or different types of applications or things that you attend to that really helps, you know, expand your mind and really help with your growth?
I think for me personally, I've always been multidisciplinary in the sense where before any of my business ventures, before school or corporate jobs, I was always an artist. I painted, I drew, I made things with my hands. And I learned very early on that if you're painting and you take a day to play guitar, it benefits the other way. It's different ways of metaphorically looking at the same creative challenge. And so if I get really stressed out, I could just start playing guitar and singing. I could start painting. And I think to dive deep into a different medium, I think business is just a medium, with money being the core driver of it. I think to dive into another medium, whatever it is, it could be hiking, it could be jogging, but just to lose yourself in that, I think there's so much to gain there. Obviously, interpersonal relationships is great, but for me personally, the journey within myself and understanding the way I am as a creative individual has more shaped my growth as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, a really cool thing that I was introduced to was we would get like a group of maybe other CPG brands or like female entrepreneurs or something specific. And once a month, we would meet on Zoom. And this started over the pandemic, but it's something that I try to be consistent with. And we really become friends with them, and it's a give or take, right? So every month when we meet over Zoom, we'll like crack wine, or in my case, I don't drink alcohol, so maybe like a boba tea. And we'll share our learnings from that month. If I'm having some issues with like my paid ads, then someone in that group can give me advice. So I think like just again, once you're out there, you're networking, you're finding like-minded businesses and people that also want to give advice and take advice, then you can like host those like little meetings and have your little group.
Yeah, for me, I guess I'm gonna give advice that my parents always give, which is your health is the most important. It's a multiplier, right? You can have everything in the world, but if your health is a zero, then you can't enjoy any of it. And I would extend that to mental health. So what I talked earlier about trying to be happy, not letting these other things affect you. I feel like there's just so many things in our current world that it's out there to make you feel inferior or to feel a certain way, and especially in our industry, you're always trying to keep up who raised comes from money, and it's very easy to kind of fall into a pit and compare yourself to others. And I'm still struggling with this as well, but I truly feel that if you can just be okay with yourself, be confident in your own abilities, then you can take it anywhere, any industry, any place. It's universal.
And I feel like in business and also personal development, I think growth comes with challenge and change. So for myself with my business, I work seasonally because I'm in fashion. So every season I always ask myself, like, what can I do to grow my business that I haven't done already? And it's something I can also do too if you're working in like a corporate environment, like what can I do that I haven't done already that can help advance me in my career and my goals? Because oftentimes it's with those new experiences, I think you grow the most. You learn a lot about yourself, about other people, and you get to have like a really cool life experience too. And it's through these challenges that I find I have the most fruitful kind of partnerships, experiences, and at the end of the day, it's just fun. Because I feel like life and business should be fun. That's why we want to be entrepreneurs, because you want to be able to have autonomy, ownership of your own life, and have new experiences.
Thank you all so much. Can we get a round of applause for Thanks for that. I've learned and taken away so many insights that I'm excited to bring back to my company, from being delusionally confident, which I love. I feel like that's just amazing, to tips for hiring and personality tests and things like that. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to transition to introducing Lena, both of our co-chairs. Thank you so much. Should I come up to you? Thank you. Wow, this is really awesome. I just wanted to thank you guys for being here tonight. If I had known what you guys know at age 28, I probably would not be here. I'm just kidding. Really quickly, I know it's really cold, guys. Just wanted to make sure that we go through a couple of announcements. If you could just bear with me. Please don't leave yet. We do have some big prizes to give away tonight. We have 2 Southwest raffle prizes. You have to be here to win. So if you could just bear with us for the next few minutes. Also, each one of you will be taking home a drunk fruit or seltzer. Please drink responsibly. I just want to make sure. And at this time, I'd like to thank everyone who made this event possible. So, Melissa, to our amazing moderator, Melissa, Jawaharlal, take off the ring break. We have a gift for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And we'd like to thank all of our panelists as well. So Brian Lee from the Market, Jennifer Chong from Embody, John Zane of Drunk Fruit, and Stephanie Lynn of Edson. And a big thank you to our awesome board members, Angie Chang and Jawaharlal. I'm going to call her MJ from now on, for short. So much easier. But anyways, I want to thank them both. They are amazing board members, and obviously your co-chairs for tonight. So without them, this event wouldn't be
possible. So this is our 4th annual Young Entrepreneurs Forum, and it's been such a pleasure to have you guys here. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of you for bearing with us in this cold. I was so freezing that I had to put my mask on just to keep my nose warm. But please, if you guys aren't part of ABA already, please thank whoever brought you here tonight. It really is a great organization. Hopefully you guys had as much fun as I did. I'm going to pass this off to Ben.
Hi everyone, thank you guys for coming. I'm Ben Pasquale. I'm Queen's co-chair here at the ABA. If you guys enjoyed this event, or even if you didn't, but I'm sure you guys did, if you guys enjoyed this event, please remember to join the ABA as a premium member for only $100. You guys can join at abala.org/join.